Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I just want to share how COVID had created an impact from the Indian perspective. I wanted to showcase a case study how we had an impact both in a negative as well as a positive way. I'll just start with the presentation. Yes, basically I'm an architect and planner, and right now I'm working as an associate professor at VIT. And I really have to thank the organizers, City Space Architecture and Chinese University of Hong Kong for giving me this opportunity. And also special thanks goes to Luisa Bravo and Hendrik Tubin for having this discussion more productive and giving me the opportunity. And the main objective of this presentation is I just thinking about the impact of COVID. I just have a few questions in my mind. Are our cities designed for efficiency? How would COVID-19 affect the planning of our cities and region? Do we need to really reconsider our approach to planning? Because as a planner, I'm just thinking and pondering about these questions. And looking at the corona statistics in India at a glance, India ranks almost 10th, and the population of India is about 1.3 billion people and having a density of about 26,000 people per square kilometer. And if you look at the number of total cases in India, it's about 0.15 million. And the government of India has started a nationwide March 24th, and to prevent the mobility of this 1.3 billion people across the country, which is it's a very challenging to the government of India. But I have to say we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to all the heroes of our country, the policemen, the doctors and nurses, the sanitation workers, and even the military force have to be come into this picture, because people doesn't understand the impact of COVID in rural areas, and they have to create awareness every time to time to know the impact of these diseases and the spread of the diseases. And these people have worked 24/7 to prevent this COVID spread. And when the first initial lockdown was there, you can see, I just wanted to show some of the public spaces in India, and you can find the different settings. I'm just seeing about the public spaces, what you are talking about in Barcelona, New York. In India, it's a complete different setting. If you see the first picture, this is Anna Salai Road, which is a prime urban transport corridor in Chennai. And you can see this a normal setting. There is always a conflict between the pedestrians and the public transport. And during the lockdown, you see there was completely, the place was deserted, or otherwise it completely is a noisy environment. And this is the Tidal Park, which is one of the place where you find a lot of IT industries. And again, you can see this place is deserted after the first lockdown was executed. And this is one of the prominent public spaces in Chennai, which is a Marina Beach, which is considered to be the world's longest second beach. And people in Chennai has only certain public spaces to access, because we are devoid of public spaces. And this is one of the greatest asset, this beach. And you can see the scores and scores of people coming in weekdays and during the weekends. And after this COVID, this has created a huge impact, because you can see the ghostly appearance of this same beach during the lockdown. And having a diverse community, we have a different type of religions, starting from Hindu, Muslims, and Christians. We all live in unity and harmony. And this is one of the temple in my neighborhood, which is a very Kabalishwara temple. And you can see the vibrancy within this public spaces. And this congregation of people, it never happens in a year. It happens every week, or because the rituals keeps on happening every week or every day. And the people used to gather and, to have the spiritual side. It shows the spiritual side of the people in a day-to-day life, especially with our context. And you can see during the lockdown, this vibrancy has completely lost. And after having this lockdown, and you can see the entire, it was a very challenging for the government to keep the numbers really down. And I just wanted to showcase an example of this marketplace, which is called as a Coimbatore marketplace, which is one of the Asia's largest wholesale market in Chennai, which is very popular and has an area of 263,000 square meter, which has got 3,750 licensed shops and 10,000 laborers working. And it was established in 1996. And it is one of the largest market where you get all the sources for the market. They used to sell only the produce like vegetables, fruits, and flowers. And this is where you can see the circled thing. It's a Chennai where the Coimbatore market is located, and this is the map of Tamil Nadu. And the Coimbatore market receives all the services from other parts, like the sources of vegetables and fruits from other parts of the districts and even across the nations. And if you see on a normal day, right, you can see this is the first picture I want to show. It's a normal scenario of the market on a day-to-day basis before the COVID. You can expect the visitors of 0.1 million every day. You can imagine that. And these are the fruits and vegetables. You can see overcrowding and congestion is always a sight in this type of context. And when the first lockdown started, everything was fine and everything was like this similar, and even the numbers were really low. But once the second lockdown extended, what happened was the government of Tamil Nadu, they imposed strict timing restrictions for the people. So at that time it was April 14th, which was we had a very special celebration of Tamil New Year. And you know, people after having this timing restrictions, they had this panic. This wholesale dealers who are coming from other parts of the districts and their livelihood is completely depending on this market. They started having the panic buying of all these vegetables and these things. And you can see after a few weeks, after a week, we found that Coimbatore has got almost 6,000 people. That time on May 8th, the people who had affected by coronavirus was only 6,500. And out of the 6,500, 1/4 of the people, that is 1,500 people, come from this Coimbatore market, because the people was not thinking about the physical distancing at all. For them, it's just they want to buy the thing and just go to their place. And after this, after seeing this number, there was a complete shutdown in the market, and almost many laborers lost their jobs. So not doing anything in the city, and its survival in the city was a bit challenging. They have to go back to their own districts, which is in the rural areas. And the unfortunate thing, what happened is these people, they didn't realize they are carrying these deadly diseases along with them, and leading this market conducive for transmission. And this Coimbatore market turned into a largest hotspot for COVID-19 this time. And you can imagine the May 9th, you can see the statistics of 6,500 people affected. But according to the statistics, which I'm showing right now, it's about 2 days back, I got the statistics, it's about 16,277. You can see the increase which has happened within the last 3 weeks. And this clearly shows there is a strong linkage between the public space and the health. There is definitely a linkage between these two. And as a planner, I'm just thinking, what is the major flaws here in this case study is this, as a planner, I think having a population of 10.9 million, because Chennai has a population of 10.9 million, according to 2020 year, according to this year. If you have one centralized market, that was the first major planning flaw, because the planning decision should have been in such a way, they should have been decentralized the market into different areas, so that based on the demand of the product and based on the necessity of the product, if there would have been a hierarchy in the market level or the market sizes, this reduction in number would have happened. And this caused a serious increase in especially in our state. There are other issues in other states, but this this case study, this particular public space had caused a huge impact on this COVID pandemic. And a few questions more to ponder, because uh, I know this topic is all about public spaces, and coming from my context, I really have to think about certain basic issues like what Corona really taught us to live in a more sustainable way, to restore the balance in the built systems, or do we have to move towards a more holistic approach and to live in a more humanitarian way with no gender inequalities and differences? And I would say, as per the Indian context, we had actually, we have to say there is a lot more to say. There is a negative as well as the positive aspects with respect to this pandemic. And talking about the holistic approach, I would say first, being as an individual is not, we are not talking about the body and the body and the physical distancing is almost, it really talks about the psychology, because when people are being curtailed not to access the public space, it's really causing a mental stress. And you can see the suicidal rate having increased a lot in our cities. And it's not because it's because we don't, for example, if I say, you have been showing all the open spaces, squares and plazas. Okay, this is how I mean, I wanted to conclude my session. Maybe you can ask questions. I thank you so much for this opportunity. Is that, for example, in terms of public spaces, I think I'm again talking from my context. And if you look at the norms laid by the World Health Organization, they said that per capita space, open spaces, accessible safe spaces, green spaces per capita is 9 square meter. But when it comes to my Chennai city, it's only about 0.81 square meter. You can see the difference, and we are devoid of public spaces. But this pandemic has taught people to live in a more sustainable way, because I have even come across many news in rural areas, because when this pandemic started to occur, people in the rural areas having lots of produce, they were not able to transport these produce to other parts of the, because of lockdown situations and the territorial restrictions. So what they did, they went back to the barter system, right? They started exchanging the goods within themselves, and in order to lead a more sustainable way. And coming back to the rural areas, what happened is, since we are living in a very densely apartment, where densely household, and people in affordable conditions, they started to cultivate having a terrace garden. So more of terrace gardens started coming in, where people started to cultivate their own kitchen gardens, right? That's a good start for us, because people started to think there is a lot more connect to nature. And this COVID has taught us there is a hierarchy of public spaces. Since they don't have an access to parks and other playgrounds and other things, they started to cultivate this terrace gardens as a part of their community life. So this is one trend has happened. And I think as an urbanist, we can think, because in India, since we have, for us, street is different dimensions. You have talking about the streets, you have a separate plazas and squares in other parts. But for us, street is one of the important public spaces, because it shows different dimensions at different parts of the day, because it shows different settings. And after this COVID, after this lockdown, people started to redefining the spaces, because they are the first time they are looking at the streets without noise, without horns, and the sense of a good smell and the chirping of birds coming in. And now they realize that they have all the rights to own the streets. Okay, and as an urban planner, I think the street planning has to be restructured, because that is one of the objective of the smart city. They are actually doing a lot of they are working on street planning, how this how different countries have separate right of way for the pedestrians and also for the vehicles. There is no conflict. Those trends are coming up in the upcoming city planning and urban design. But unfortunately, as for the time being, we have very narrow streets. But and these streets have been used both for the commuting of vehicles as well as for the pedestrians. So what we can do as an urban planner, during the weekdays, weekends, some of the streets can be designated only for the pedestrians. Okay, so that the children can access to the streets, they can play, they can express. This is what happening right now, and I think this should continue. And it's not about the physical distancing, it's about social solidarity. I will not say social distancing, it's a physical distancing, and social solidarity should be there, and it will create a well-being of the community to a greater extent. This is how I'm just talking about from a very small level, the streets, the parks, and we can go to much higher state rather if we can able to tackle this situation at this current point or a current context.